Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Post Point Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about addiction, and we could just go around the table and get anyone's either experiences or personal struggles or experiences with it. So, I'll start with you.
Oh, yay! Start with me. I don't think I've ever been medically addicted to anything. My mom says I'm addicted to my phone, but what else is new? My family's had a couple of addiction problems. Like my uncle and my older sister smoke way too much for their health, and I don't know. At least from watching them, it seems very much like those commercials. You know, the ones where it's like you have to take time out of your life to go smoking and stuff. It actually did seem a bit like that. And I don't know. I don't think I'd ever try cigarettes or something, but who knows, I might, and I would hate to have that sort of addiction or whatever.
Right.
Anyway, your opinion.
I've lost a couple family members to alcohol, and I didn't really know them very well, but that made me woke me up. I used to smoke marijuana a lot, and losing my uncle kind of made me realize that I should, be more aware of my health. So that was kind of my experience with it.
Huh. Where did you get it?
Oh my god, as a high school student, it was so easy to find. It took me 5 minutes.
Wow. Okay then, that's good to know.
Yeah. It was kind of scary how easy it was. You just kind of knew which
go up
kids
to the
do
guy
it.
sitting in the
And
corner.
so you
Hey, I
just,
want some weed.
You just it took 3 snaps, and I already had a date set up where I was gonna go get it from this girl who I didn't know. It was just crazy.
Son. Wow.
It's so easy to do it when you're in high school, and that's bad.
Yeah, kinda. It's a little bit bad.
Yeah.
For me, family member wise, I mean, I'm pretty sure I have some family in California who've struggle with substances, but me personally, alcohol is a big one. I don't really know how long I've been sober from alcohol. I don't really I'm not someone who likes to put a number to that, because I feel like that can be good and it could be bad, because you can celebrate 1 year of sobriety, or you can slip up and you could be 5 years in and you make one hiccup, and then you just feel like the whole 5 years was a waste.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just go back down that rabbit hole just because you made a little hiccup, and that 5 years was so important. So I mean, I can see both sides to that, but me personally, I just don't really like putting a number on it. But yeah.
How will we know your high score?
I just like to keep. The one big thing that you kind of learn is just to kind of take it one day at a time. And for me, it was just really. I was never a drug guy, but it was my go-to was just alcohol. And at first time ever having it was at a party when I was 16, and I think it was either freshman or sophomore in high school. And I just remember being really man, this feels super good. And then I didn't really drink too much after that, because it was just a little bit harder to get. But as I got older, I met some more people, and it was more easily accessible to me. So I think it was around last year was when I was at the peak. And I'm kind of someone who I can't have a beer or two. If I'm gonna drink, I'm gonna get drunk. Otherwise there's no point to me. So yeah, and that's just kind of how it is. And I just remember one time I got super drunk with one of my friends. It was at his house, and then I had to go do some photo shoot at a car show that next morning, and I was just super hungover and had to work after that. And my dad was taking me, and he smelt it on me. And I remember, kind of what he said to me at the time. This was kind of, at the beginning of it all. He was just all hey, we both, your mom and I have, a long strain of, addiction in the family. So, just be careful. And at the time, I just kind of, blew it off.
You're
hey, I'm good. I know what I'm doing. But something that,
I did not.
Yeah.
No.
Something that really just kind of, I don't really know when it, at first I did it, a lot because it was really fun, and in all honesty, and I had a lot of problems like going to sleep, so I would always just like get super drunk and then like I would end up just passing out at some
I get
point.
that.
Yeah,
I
and
use
then
marijuana
you
for
get
the
super
same thing.
yeah, and something that I always did was I would always at first it was like a social thing, like I'd get drunk with like a bunch of friends and all that stuff, and then like it became more of like, you know what, I'm just gonna have like I'm just gonna like play video games and like have some mixed drinks and just slowly
See what
progress
happens.
there. Yeah, and something that really got ruined for me for like when I got sober was like video games in general, because I had grown so prone to this like routine of like especially college, like I never played games that required any thought or anything, so I just play Call of Duty because it's just mindless fun.
Yeah.
Really, and I would just get drunk and be playing that. So when I got sober and I just like tried to like get into video games again, it just didn't feel right because I just wasn't drinking, I wasn't drunk. So it took a while to really like fully like appreciate that. And another big thing was just the routine of it, like getting sober like around like 8-9 o'clock is when I would start drinking and get like really drunk. My whole philosophy was drink as much as I can in the shortest amount of time. So
shots.
yeah. So funny thing, I can't really do shots anymore. Like I just puke. So what I would do is I just mix it, and by the time I'd get drunk, I would just be pouring more and more like vodka in there. I was a huge vodka drinker. But yeah, and it was really weird. Like I was getting pretty much blackout drunk every single night for like 5 months.
Ooh.
And it's something that like I always like kind of like do you guys know who Steve-O is? Like the guy from Jackass.
Oh,
he
yeah.
he talked. I watched a lot of stuff about him getting sober. Like once I was trying to like figure stuff out, and like a lot of things stood out to me about like him talking about getting sober. And one of them was just like one of the like when he was kind of at his low point, he talked about how he just felt like he just couldn't beat it, like the addiction, like he just couldn't, like there was no way he can live his life without like the drugs or alcohol. And people who feel that way are more prone to get sober than those who don't feel like they have a problem. And something like that really stood out to me because I was like, how does that make any sense? And they kind of describe it in the sense of like, for someone who is like down on their luck, they just feel like they're just powerless over it, they're more likely to get sober because they can identify that there's a problem there, compared to people who are just kind of like, feeling like there's nothing, they're not really doing anything wrong or whatnot. They just, and that's kind of how I was for 5 months. Like I was just getting blackout drunk, and I never thought I had a problem at all. So I had no reason to like try to get sober. And that was another thing too. It's just like Steve-O tried to, he had been to rehab before, but he just went right back into like drinking and doing drugs. And that was a big thing for me. There was times like when I was drinking at the peak where I tried to get sober, just kind of like for friends, or like at the time my girlfriend. But there's like this thing where like, I don't know, it's really just like it's kind of like when you're ready. Like at the time, like I still didn't see a problem with drinking. I was just doing it for someone else, like just staying sober. So like eventually when we broke up, I was just like, well, I guess I could start drinking again. And that was like that's like a huge problem with drinking for me, was just like no matter what I was doing that day, like the only thing pushing me through the day was like, okay, I'm gonna get drunk tonight. And like that was like the main motivating factor like throughout my day, was like, okay, I'm gonna get through work today. And the one thing that's pushing me forward to like stay positive was like, I'm gonna be home and I can get drunk and I'll be fine. And I think like kind of just where it got like really bad was probably like I want to say there was like a huge chunk of time where I was just doing it for fun, where it was a problem when I was just drinking every single night because I enjoyed it. And then there was a time when just a lot of stuff like went off with like me and my ex, and I was just like, well, I was just kind of like upset, so I just drank a lot then. And I remember spring break, I took that week off of work because I just kind of wanted to have like a week, just like an actual like vacation without work or anything.
Mm-hmm.
and I literally like binge drink the entire week.
Ooh.
Like there was like a time where I got drunk all day, woke up in the morning and it was like 11, and then I just like poured myself like a mixed drink and like was just drunk throughout the entire day. And that was like I think the like peak of it all. At that point I kind of like had an idea I had a problem, and it wasn't really till like my best friends who don't drink were kind of like, hey, are you okay, like type of thing.
You're like,
yeah,
This
and
doesn't seem like a normal thing.
one of the things too is that it was really weird. There's this guy Joey Diaz he was addicted to cocaine, and he talked about like it's really like, in this I can relate to it. There was times where I didn't want to get drunk some nights, but there was just that routine of getting drunk like around 8 or 9, so I'd have like this weird type of feeling in me like I need a drink, even though like I personally didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I just do it even though I didn't necessarily want to. And something that's still like kind of being sober now that really kind of really bothers me is that like, yeah, it's just kind of something that I guess kind of goes with being sober, but it's the struggle of just like thinking about alcohol and just being like, okay, I'm never going to be able to have that feeling of being drunk again. And that's like a really hard thing to go through. Plus, like, whenever like there's like any type of event or party or something, like, and there's alcohol involved, it's either you gotta like sit out on it, or you just kind of have to trust yourself that you have enough self-control to like resist from it. But what about you guys? Like, I feel like I've been talking a lot, so
to be honest, you've got the most information on this.
Yeah, I understand some of that. I started smoking marijuana when I was like 16.
Jeez.
And it was the last day of sophomore year, and there was this like bonfire thing that like a bunch of the kids were going to, and it was like in the forest by my school, and I decided that I was going to go, and I didn't know why. I just wanted to, because I was going through a rebellious phase. And so I go, and so I go, and I'm sitting in this bonfire, and there's like, it was just kind of like really weird, because it was also like near the church where I used to go, and so it was very ironic for me. But I remembered like they were like passing around like the marijuana, because that's what happens at bonfires. And it comes to me, and I mean, everybody grows up and they always talk about like peer pressure and stuff, and how like, oh, like don't let your friends like peer pressure you into doing anything. And it was so funny to me, because it came to me and everybody there was like, oh, well, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. Like, nobody wants to like pressure you into anything. And it was kind of the exact opposite of how I thought it was going to go in my head. And I kind of like just pressured myself to do it. And I was like, no, give it. Show me how to do it. And so
light it up.
I remember I like took that first hit, and it was like this warmth that entered my body, and it was like heaven on earth. And I was like, that was amazing. I want to do it again. And it was like, and from there, I was just kind of hooked on it. Especially like I get like sometimes I didn't even feel like I wanted to do it, but I did it so much that it was just routine. So I just kept doing it. And I remember hiding it from my parents, and I would like go in my backyard and I would smoke for a while, and then I would come inside and I would like put all my clothes in the washer. I would like brush my teeth and take a shower. I took like
never caught
all
on.
of the precautions. No.
Did you wear sunglasses around them?
My eyes never went crazy, which was
Really?
they started getting red towards the end, but I remember I showed up. I knew I had a problem when I showed up to my first day of high school, like really high. And my best friend was very against marijuana, and she like had known that I've been doing it, and she was really helpful in being like, hey, like, you have a problem. And she kind of talked to me about it. And I wasn't very willing to listen to her at first. And I was like, no, this is normal. Like, I'm doing it because it's helping me or whatever. And she was persistent, and she was there for me, and she was like, no, I don't think this is good for you. And it took like me reflecting and being like, okay, so what have I done this week? And it was kind of like, all you've done this week is get high. My grades were suffering for it, and so I decided to stop. But it was a lot harder than I thought it was, because I'd always heard, well, marijuana's not addictive. And I didn't, like, understand, like, why I kept wanting to do it so much. I'm like, well, I can just stop. And I remember I kept trying, and I would slip up, and I started doing the thing where I counted the days, like how many days I had been sober, and then I would slip up, and then it would be devastating. So I stopped counting, because that was really bad for me, because it was just kind of like this game.
That's what I'm scared of. Like, if I feel like if I get to like 5 months and then like I end up slipping up, I'm like, well, I guess I might as well just go all out.
Yeah,
now.
it's so
like,
devastating when you lose all those days, because then you have to recount, and then you're like, great, I'm at 1. And
So
it's like the shame cycle, so I stopped counting.
Yeah, that's why I'm just all like, I feel like I will be a victim to that, so I'm just like, I just take one day at a time, really.
Yeah.
Did you ever tell your parents about it?
Oh, well, fun fact, so my sister knew about it, and one day my dad sits me down, and it was like right before my birthday, and he sits me down, and he's like, is there anything you want to tell me? And I'm like, at this
Want
point,
to?
I'm like, oh, God.
Well.
And so basically, somehow, like, this church I went to, apparently, like, some of the people at church found out, and they told my parents.
Ooh.
And so, yeah. And I was already, like, starting to quit at this point, so I was so frustrated that they found out when I was
This is
already
super
trying
stressful.
to
Hold
stop.
on. Oh, wait, I can't do that anymore.
And, yeah. And so my dad spoke to me about it, and he was really understanding. And I was using marijuana to, like, go get through some stuff that I really needed, like, a different outlet to get through besides marijuana. And he was really understanding, and I was surprised that I wasn't grounded for the rest of my life. And, yeah. And then we eventually told my mother, and she was also really understanding about it, and it was just kind of this really weird, like, I thought it was going to go, like, a different way in my head. I was assuming that there was going to be some yelling and some grounding involved, but...
Yeah, I had a similar experience, because, like, kind of when I, like, the peak of, like, kind of where I had that weird, like, hopeless feeling, like, I don't know if I can just beat this, so I talked to my mom about it, pretty much, and I just kind of broke down to her, and she just kind of, like, I don't know, it was weird telling, like, a parent, like...
It's so weird.
Because, like... I grew up in a household where there was just no alcohol or smoking or anything like none of my parents do that, and my parents are Christian and whatnot, so it was just really weird. I just felt like I didn't really have anyone else to go to, so I just talked to my mom about it, and she was just like super supportive and just kind of helping me through it. But like, I guess something I want to ask you is just like kind of how are you now with like staying sober?
I think about it a lot still, and like
Yeah.
when I'm sad, I always think, I'm like, well, I could just make one phone call and I could be smoking right now. But I've been really good at keeping myself in check, and being like, I don't want to like die of lung cancer or something crazy. So I've tried to keep that in the back of my mind of like, it's not healthy. Like, you should deal with your problems. And I've also been going to a therapist, so that's been fun.
I go to I don't know if you guys know what Champion Center is. It's like a church in Tacoma, but on Tuesdays they have something called Celebrate Recovery, and it's just kind of like AA in a way. It's every Tuesday night, but I go to those every week, and it's like honestly really helpful. But yeah, as for like just kind of staying sober, like I said, I just kind of take everything day by day, but I try not to think too far. Like I said, like I don't really have any plans on Halloween, and I could just easily just like make a phone call and like just get drunk that night.
Yeah.
And it's super hard not to like I don't know, for me it's just like really hard, because then I start making excuses in my head on like you know,
Well, I can do
why
it.
it's justified. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be fine. It's just like one day, you know.
Everybody else does it and it's fine.
yeah. And it's a funny thing going back to the parents thing. Like, back when I was with my ex, like, she would just come over and we would hang out, and I'd every night just get drunk. And I'd have full conversations with my parents that I just don't remember. And they, like, never caught on. And I remember one time we were in the kitchen. Like, I would literally drink right in front. I would just pour it, like, in a cup and then mix it. And then I'd just have, like, a straw in it. And then I'd have, like, my water bottle and I'd drink it. And then I use water as a chaser. And,
You're just smart on that.
So, my mom was, like, in the kitchen and I was already a little drunk. And my girlfriend at the time was sitting next to me. And, like, I went over there to, like, throw something in the garbage. And I was, like, talking to my mom as I went over there. And I just looked at her, and her eyes got super wide because she could smell it on my breath. And I was, like, talking to my mom, who was, like, right next to me. So she was like, oh, man. Like,
Oh, no.
But my mom never found out. But she was, like, she was just, like, freaking out. Like, dude, like, stop talking and get over here. But, yeah, it's just weird. Like, and then one thing I don't have to worry about now is, like, I would always... My thing would be, like... I would never throw away any of my alcohol stuff away at my garbage, so just in case like my parents was like,
Oh
what's
my
that
God,
glass
yeah.
noises in there? So I would always just put it in a bag and throw it away at my work, and just like
I'm sure the work never got
just
suspicious.
throwing away the evidence.
Yeah, the parents thing was crazy because my parents are Mormon, and so like coffee and energy drinks were banned.
Oh.
So like the horror that I felt in telling my mother and that I'd been doing something that was previously illegal was crushing, and she was like, I remember telling her about it, and her response was, at least you didn't do something really bad. And I
Oh,
was like,
Lord.
What?
At least you didn't do something like drink coffee.
Yeah, and I don't even remember getting grounded for it. They were just kind of like, I mean, they were passive aggressive about it,
Of course.
but that's expected. But they were, at least my father was really understanding, and he was like, yeah, I mean, like, stop doing that, but I get it, you know. It was nice.
It's good to have supportive family, I guess.
Yeah.
As like an outsider looking in, what's like your kind of perspective?
I keep having these things that I like feel like is something to say, and then I'm not sure. It's like, is that rude? Is that like?
I mean, it's
is that coming off incorrectly?
You
I don't
druggies.
know. I mean, for one, I had no idea. I mean, I don't know. You look like a person that I don't know. You look you're kind of older, and so you look like, sure, he looks like a person that might drink alcohol, but I don't know. And I had no clue on you, so I guess good job looking sober. You fooled me.
Something that I always notice about like people when they talk about like being sober is like there's always that whole concept of just all like, you know, someone congratulations on being sober and whatnot. And there's they like Steve-O specifically talks about, yeah, I've been sober for like 20 years, but I can like have a falling out tomorrow for all I know. It just like you just take one day at a time. And I think that really helped me because like I'm just like, as long as I get today down, I'm good.
Don't have to worry about tomorrow until the
I'll
next
worry
day.
about tomorrow, and that's kind of really helped me. Plus, like going to like CR has really helped a lot. Just it's kind of treated like AA, like everyone just sits in a circle, you go around the circle, talk, and then there's like questions that everyone goes around and answers. So that's really helpful, but it's really nice to kind of like hear other people's like perspective and like their kind of journey, like dealing with alcohol and how they got sober and whatnot.
It's
And-
that whole, you're not alone in this. There's a whole
Yeah,
room
yeah.
of people that are experiencing similar things, and they can all help.
Yeah, a big thing about it too is that they always say that recovery is not supposed to be meant to be walked alone, and that was kind of a big thing for me. Like I was trying so long to kind of just like control it myself, and which kind of like made a lot of it's just so easy just to fall victim of it, because then it's just like you're hanging out with friends and you don't really have that like person to rely on, like, oh, if I drink, this person might be a little upset with me because like I kind of slipped up, and it just kind of it just makes you kind of feel more accountable for like your actions and whatnot. But it is really hard to just kind of like look at the situation of like a party or like friends drinking and just being able to just say no, because like my drinking friends, for instance, like before I got sober or anything, like if there was anyone in the group who'd be like, I don't really feel like being like drinking or anything, everybody would just go in on them and just call like just say like, what's wrong with you? Are you
Dude,
dumb?
what the hell?
Like, yeah, like you're just such a buzzkill or something like that. So I didn't really have like a more like, I mean like one of our friends, like he just wasn't like, he was like huge into drinking and then he stopped for a bit and we're like, oh, we should respect that. And I kind of regret this, but I was that one in the group who was just all like, wow. Like, wow.
You don't
drink
You're not fun anymore,
what
man.
the hell, dude?
You think you can have fun without alcohol? What's wrong with you? And then as I got sober, like when I first got sober, kind of, I like went, well, this is like kind of when I got sober, like I was sober for like a week or two and then went back to drinking a lot again.
Mm-hmm.
I took a trip to Vegas, and that was really hard because I went with my parents, and like I was just like drinking a lot, and then I went to Vegas, and I had to stop for like a week, like cold turkey. And it's not like I can get alcohol in Vegas. It's like my parent. I remember low-key asking my dad on the side, like, "Hey, so you gonna like get me alcohol when we're there?" And he's just like, no. I was just like hoping
No,
he would say yes. Like,
I am your father.
like there's like a little part of me that was just like, maybe he might say yes. I hope so. Like, you know. But in conclusion, you know, I just kind of feel like addiction in general. I mean, it's weird. I went 16 years of my life like not ever drinking alcohol, thinking like I can just live without it, and now it's a struggle to think that I can never drink again. So, the best possibility is like, you know, just not even doing it to begin with. But I don't think for me, I don't think anything's wrong with drinking alcohol. I just think the way you go about it is like
getting drunk every day and playing video games, not recommended.
Yeah, like for me, I'm the kind of person who can't just have 3 drinks and then call it a night. Like I have, like if I'm drinking, I'm gonna get drunk. But anything you guys want to say to conclude?
Yeah, I mean, also like looking for that behavior in your friends is like a really good thing, because I think if my friend hadn't stepped in, I wouldn't have gotten out of it very well.
What about you, Jonas?
I don't know. I feel kind of disrespectful almost for being here, because it's like I had a super. She's not religious anymore, but my mom was super religious and was like, if you like look at a cigarette, it'll rewrite your brain, and I am like deathly terrified of stuff like that now. And so seeing it from you guys, it's like, well, on the one hand, she was right, I guess. On the other, it's like, wow, it's a serious thing, and it's, I don't know how it's going to work out. I hope that I don't end up having an issue, but I know who to talk to if something happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess I hope that if you guys want to talk to me about it, you totally can.
Alrighty. So, in conclusion, to conclude this episode, thank you all for watching the Post Point Podcast, episode 19. And join us next week, and join us this Friday for the Addams Family Review.